Thank you, Eric.
The New Jersey Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this provision of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times, and submitted to the town clerk of the town of Belvidere on May 16th, 2025.
Just amend that to May 28th. I'm sorry, I skipped that when I
Oh,
did that.
May 28th of 2025. That was submitted. The meeting will be live streamed at www.belvideresd.org. Flag salute, please. Roll call, mission statement, sorry. The mission of the Belvidere School District is to celebrate our past and empower our future while focusing on the four cornerstones of our district: tradition, excellence, academics, and community. We strive to build confidence and promote collaboration. We encourage an equal partnership with our students and staff, as well as its community members. We empower everyone to develop the best version of themselves. The Belvidere School District is committed to shaping students into global citizens who take initiatives for their success and contribute to the continued excellence of the district. Our students are leaders in the decision-making process of their education and will be prepared to excel in a 21st century society. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mrs. Saron?
Here.
Dr. Zuppeth?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Steffen?
Here.
Ms. Walton?
Here.
Mrs. Wenner? Ms. White? Mr. Ciccarelli?
Here.
Mrs. Gardella?
Here.
Mrs. Robotham?
Here. Okay, so we are going to move on to our superintendent search process with Kathleen Hellowa.
Thank you. How would you like for me to address everybody? Over there? Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much for having me on a Friday night. So, very impressive. Okay, I think this is working. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Shelley. All right, so I really do appreciate tremendously the opportunity to walk with you through this process. And in speaking with Melissa, I know we have some other work to do tonight, but I figured we both figured what would be helpful is to just outline what the steps are in this process, especially for your stakeholders to know. As you know, and I see the nice pop-up on your website, which is great, I'm going to be spending the day in your district this coming week on Wednesday, I think it is, and we'll be meeting and speaking with your stakeholders. So I will go over this a little bit more in detail, but knowing that people will be watching this and listening to this who may not attend those sessions, I think this is going to be helpful. These are the steps that we're going to walk through right until you appoint your superintendent. The first one is to advertise, and we'll talk more about what you guys are looking for, and that will make it into the advertisement. I'll also be recruiting, so that'll be a number of weeks there. And the input gathering sessions, that's another step that I take care of for you. I have a survey that goes out to everybody, and also we'll do those live sessions that I believe Superintendent Karuba mentioned to you that we'll be doing on Wednesday. And while those things are going on and the applicants start coming in, I'll be interviewing them. I want to get a little ground under my feet to see like what the concerns are here, what the strengths are here, talk to you guys about what you're really looking for, so that when I spend that time with those applicants one-on-one in what I call a preliminary interview, it's very conversational and it's remote, I can focus in on the areas that are going to be important for Belvidere, right? So that's going on. You guys are going about your busy lives doing your thing while I'm working on that. You don't have to worry about any of that business. But when we get together again next, it's going to be a big meeting. That is where you're going to select How many of all of those people who applied are most interesting to you to meet with for first round interviews? I showed you a copy of like a report that I prepared to help you make those decisions. I will have talked to everybody by then and interviewed them. I'll have a short list for you to consider, and that meeting, we'll go over everybody and all of their materials, and this board will make the decision on whom to interview. And then I'll set up the interviews. We do 3 rounds of interviews, and we winnow them down, as we go through. You guys make all those decisions, but I'm there to help walk you through it. And when we're down to a finalist, the next step after that, which may be done concurrently with the step listed afterwards on this slide, is the reference check. The reference checks that I assist my boards with are very robust. And I want people to know, and I always explain this to candidates as well, and this is how I do every one of my searches, so it's nothing new. But each board member will be calling somebody about this candidate. We will use supplied references that they give me, and I will also ferret up some non-supplied references. And there is a little box on the application that every applicant is going to check that gives us the ability to do that. We do it judiciously. It's not a witch hunt or anything, but we talk to supplied and non-supplied references, and I think that that's important. While that's going on, and that has to be successful for your appointment to go through, but while that's going on, oftentimes you're in contract negotiations as well. The applicant understands that the reference check has to be successful in order for the board to offer them employment, but there's no reason why we can't kind of get all the details ironed out while we're doing the reference check. Some boards do them concurrently, some do one before the other. We'll talk about that and what makes the most sense for Belvidere. When you have a successful reference check and a successfully negotiated contract, your executive county superintendent needs to approve that. And after all of that work is done, the board will appoint the next superintendent in public session, in either a regularly scheduled meeting of the board, or if it behooves the board and it's best for your timeline, you can call a special meeting just for that purpose. Okay, so those are the basic steps. You'll also notice on the bottom of this slide, at the bottom at that last one, it says, your new superintendent's start date, is not necessarily, in fact, it's not the same as the appointment date. Your superintendent, incoming superintendent, will likely have an exit clause in their contract that they'll have to honor. It could be 60 days, it could be 90 days, it might even be different from that. Every once in a while, a board will give them kind of leeway on that. We don't really know. It's too soon to say what that's going to look like, but I did want to put that out there so that there's no confusion. So, oh yeah, we appoint in, August and we'll have somebody in September. No, probably not. So this is the basic outline. I wonder if there's any questions on that? Okay.
That's a good plan.
Thank you, thank you.
You've done this before, I can tell.
I have, and I like doing it. It's rare that I talk about it on a Friday night, so kudos to the board for getting together for this. But yeah, that's the plan, and we're going to be doing a lot of working together, a lot of talking, and this search is, as standardized as these steps are, the search is unique to Belvidere. This is going to be very different from the North Caldwell search, which is going to be very different from the Stillwater search. So I'm really looking forward to diving in with you guys on this. All right? So thank you.
Target number of candidates for a first round?
Well, I don't like to set that in stone, right? Because we don't know who's going to apply. But since you asked, I think 8 is kind of a nice number to think about, but we'll see. We'll see how many people apply, how many people are attractive. Sometimes we do 10. I don't think I've ever done more than 10, to be honest with you. I'd have to go back in my files. But 8's not a bad number. And if it's less than that, if it's 6, okay, that's no problem. You don't want to get too narrow because, what if they all bomb the first interview? If you're only considering 3 people and none of them knock your socks off, then what do? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Okay. So next up, Melissa, would you like for me to, forgive me, to speak about for the search? Or are we going into public comment first? Because I know we have some work to do in executive session as well. Yes, this would be good if, all right. Okay. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to put down the microphone. I'm going to give you guys a worksheet.
You could sit down too, Catherine. Yeah.
I would love that. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to switch slides, Kathy?
No, I think
Not yet?
this will, you know,
Go with the worksheet?
maybe I should, actually. If you guys wouldn't mind just kind of passing these around, let's do that. Eric, well, I need to go back into my good old
Or you got it?
and see where steps in the superintendent's. Here we go. This is the one that we were. All right. No, I'm gonna actually use this if this is on. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. So what I think you all are about to have, or what you do have, is pretty much a copy of what was in those folders that I gave you the first time that we met. And now we get to fill in the blanks, which should be very satisfying, right? So this is, I'd like to get a range of dates that's going to work for each of these steps. So if you look at the first line on the thing where it says Board affirms the search calendar in the advertisement, we can kind of fill that in with today, right? And I'll get you guys a completed copy of this for your records after we do it. We'll talk about the ad later. The surveys I'll work with Chris on. We'll talk about that later. The application deadline we'll talk a little bit about later. What I'd like to do is work from the very bottom. And that is when you think that might be a good target date for your superintendent to start. That's kind of determines the way things best work. That's typically how I do these. Now, I took the liberty of this afternoon of examining my calendars and trying to look at something that would be the most efficient process for you, to get somebody in as quickly as possible, right? And I don't mean to say quickly like we're going to rush. Obviously, there's a lot of steps and you're going to be doing a lot of work. But if we do all that work in this way, I think we can move through this throughout the summer, and I think that it would be pretty gratifying also to the people who work here and your students and your community to know, okay, we've got somebody coming in sooner rather than later. So I'm looking at an appointment during August, and we can get there, The way to do that is to run the advertisement. We'll talk about what that's going to look like pretty soon, from June 2nd until the 29th. We run it through June. I don't like a shorter window than that. I think 2 weeks, especially at this time of year, is too crazy. I like to recruit for you too, and I need some time to call people and get them to start thinking about, whether leadership in this district is a match for them or not. And that takes longer than 2 weeks to do, quite frankly. So that's a nice 4-week window. As those applicants are coming in, I'm interviewing them, all that stuff, we're going to probably get a rush of people at the last day. I always get more applicants on the last day than any other day. And then I'll have a week to review them, to interview them, to prepare that report for you on the pluses and minuses of each of the candidates. And we will meet. So the way I have this calendar scheduled is I'm focusing on 2 days, Saturdays and Wednesdays. And I'm following the example of the Dover Board of Education. It's very frequent that I do what's called the pool delivery, where we talk about all the candidates and you look through the candidate pool and you decide who you want to meet on a Saturday. That happens a lot. What happened in Dover is they did, because we had a very big board with a lot of things going on, and it was also during the summer, we devoted each consecutive Saturday to the search, and we did all of our interviews on Saturdays. So that being said, I'm proposing to meet on Saturday, July 19th. In fact, I have this on here. Why don't I just look at this so I don't have to keep backwards? Well, July 19th from 9:30 until about 2 o'clock, and that would allow for 6 interviews. 6 interviews. I also propose holding Wednesday, the 23rd, as a backup, knowing that you guys meet on Wednesdays, so that's probably a decent day to target. And the reason why this would be good to hold in our back pocket is if one of your top candidates can't make a Saturday. In Dover, unfortunately, we had to leave a couple people on the cutting room floor because they couldn't make it. It was what it was. But we can avoid that here in Belvidere, hopefully. And another thing, too, is if you have more than 6 candidates, you could easily do 2 interviews in one night, easily, or 4, and get it up to 10. So I like that plan. Second round interviews, then we'll go to the next Saturday. This would be a longer day, most likely, because the second round of interviews is, I got to be honest with you, they typically go for 90 minutes, right? I don't want them to go more than that, but the conversation really gets going. There's a lot to cover. It's a crucial round, and I like to allow for 90 minutes for those. So if we were to meet from 9:30 to 4, that would allow for 4 robust interviews and lunch. And also we could hold Wednesday, July 30th as a backup. You could easily do 1 or even 2 interviews on that night. I gotta be honest with you, I wouldn't want to do 3. That's too much. It's exhausting. Third rounds, they're shorter. They're also very important, though. So I'm thinking, Saturday, August 2nd, we could start at 9:30. I don't know what time we'll end. We don't know how many people will make it to the third round. And again, holding the 6th as a backup. Now, I have in brighter red, we could even, depending on how this goes, let's just say you interview folks on July 26th, and there's 1 or 2 real standouts that you're very serious about, especially if it's only one person. Maybe we could even do this on Wednesday the 30th, the Wednesday right after the Saturday. Because most typically a third round interview is not a lot of bells and whistles. Your presentations that you have your candidates do, if that's something that the board would like, which I think is a worthy endeavor, most often would happen in that second round. And the third round is just tying up loose ends, anything that you guys really need to know before you vote, and that typically is an hour or less. So those are the dates that I'm thinking would work for interviews. And as all that happens, right, if we're going to be really efficient, I think I mentioned earlier, you could do the reference check and the contract negotiations concurrently. So I'm being very optimistic here, and I'm thinking, and there's no reason not to be optimistic, to be honest with you, that we can get those done either, depending on when that third round interview is, by August 8th or by August 15th. Now, it's somewhere in code or statute or wherever that the county office, which needs to approve these contracts, I believe has 20 working days to do that. And one of the other reasons why you should be grateful for living in Warren County is you have one of the best county offices out there. Dr. Lamonte is amazing. And I wouldn't want to hold her to it, but if she's not on vacation and she's willing, and there's nothing kooky in your contract, this is Belvidere, you're not going to have that, right? She could, if we submit it by August 18th, I think we could have that done within the week. I really do, or less. I mean, she's just astonishing. But we don't know. I don't know when she's going to be around. Life throws little wrinkles at us. But if that were to happen, once you get that county approval, you could already have your date advertised, and you appoint in mid-August, right? And depending on who you get, if they have a 60-day or 90-day notice is the most common that I see. If you have a 60-day notice, then they can start in mid-October. If you have a 90-day, then your incoming superintendent. This is imagining an external person can start in November. Okay? So that's the prep work that I did coming into this. And I'm wondering if there are any concerns with this, if there are any thoughts or questions about how workable this calendar is.
I believe you. I've never done this.
Okay.
So
All right.
you're the man.
All right, I like that. That sounds good. Well, I guess the question is, are Saturdays workable for everybody?
The first one, the 19th,
Mm-hmm.
I can do Saturday, but I can't be here till 10:30. So you can either start at 9:30
Oh, that's
without me
fine.
or start at 10:30.
That's fine.
There's a 5K in town at 9 o'clock, so
Oh.
after that.
Oh, okay, good, okay. Well, maybe we either push the start back, if the 5K's in town, we can push the start time
Well, you
back a
can
little.
still get to the school.
Figured we'd talk about the dates, like an executive, more so to iron
Yeah,
that
more
out
so.
for our meeting,
I think the
right.
biggest question is everybody willing to do a few Saturdays in a row? Like, is that doable on people's calendars? I know people have kids, people have, commitments that they can't always have somebody else take care of them for them. So I think our biggest pull is, as a whole, can you say confidently you could make, most of those Saturdays? Or would we be looking at splitting it up? I mean, like round one, you're talking maybe 3 nights in a week to make it all happen, or 2 nights in a week as we get narrowed down, or a Saturday, that's not as long and do the Wednesday. Like we need to kind of come together as to what's going to make the most sense and most available for most of the members.
Yes,
I
very
can-
well said.
I think, part of a Saturday and Wednesday evenings are feasible. If you said 9 to 5 on Saturday, different.
Yeah.
But my one question is, in your past, having done searches, have you had a similar timeline where you were working through summer months
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
had, this is consistent with
Yeah,
experience?
this is, except for the Wednesdays on hold, this is how Dover did it, right?
And theirs was in the summer months?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it
thank you.
was. And it worked out well. On the reverse side, tried to do this with another district, but everyone's vacations were all over the place, and we just wound up banging through September. And that was a little much. It was much for the candidates. It was a little much with everything going on. We could do it, but it's more frenetic. You know what I mean?
So I was gonna bring that up. I don't have any vacations planned, and fine for me. But if we do commit to a Saturday and a Wednesday for the entire month of July and all of these dates in August, it's really no vacations for any of us, so we have to commit to that. I mean, a couple of days here and there, but we're not leaving like Saturday night and coming back a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to point that out, because we have to
Have the
be here.
meeting at a fine restaurant? Would that be possible?
I would love that, right? Maybe we'll Oprah it for
Jersey
down the
Shore.
shore, right? Yeah.
Has anybody got a house they want to offer?
Mars, that would be a hard pass.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
So, I mean,
I like the
it's
idea.
if we wanted to hold both of those days, it is twice a week for the entire summer.
I think we've signed up to do this, and our responsibility to do it. So whatever, I'll do whatever everybody, like you.
Yeah, me
I have
too.
nothing planned. I'll do whatever you need to do. Wednesdays, Saturdays, Mondays at 4. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever everybody else can do.
Beautiful. Thank you. Is there anyone who's concerned about it? Is there anyone who's saying, nope, this is not going to work for my family and me?
Looking at those exact dates, August 13th is the only one that's not possible for me at all. But the next meeting, August 20th, is our regularly scheduled board meeting anyway. So
Yeah.
Great.
It
Okay.
doesn't have to be a Wednesday either.
yeah.
We could do a
A
Monday if that worked for
yeah,
everybody.
a
or
Thursday or
Tuesday.
yeah.
Absolutely. I figured Wednesdays are,
Yeah.
Right, you
our
just kinda
target.
stood-
She just started with like
right.
a range so that we can have a starting point, since like none of us have ever really done this.
Right.
Yeah. And the nice thing about doing a Saturday, it's nice to hear that you're all willing, because I'm very pleasantly surprised to hear that,
Well, our
is that
sports
it's
are limited in the
yeah,
summer.
it's
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
but it's less
actually easier in the
meetings, right?
summer.
Like for the first, I like, if you notice on this thing, I say hold 3 dates for your first. That can be a little much, coming out in addition to your regular committee meetings, your regular board meetings. So we kind of bang them all out on a Saturday, and God forbid somebody can't make it, candidate-wise, we'll, put them in on the Wednesday.
I'm kind of feeling like, I know Saturdays are not always ideal, but I feel like we have those committee meetings and our standing board meeting. I feel like we have a lot to talk about over the summer, that if we sprinkle more of these interviews during the week, we're not gonna have any time with home.
Yeah.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think if everybody could do
Yeah.
Saturdays, I think.
I do too. I'd rather get it
Are
all.
these Saturdays gonna be rainy or sunny?
Stop.
Well,
we're
I'm
here.
going to have them sunny when we leave,
There you go.
so.
My only issue. By then,
Yeah.
we're almost.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
have an issue
I
with
mean,
that.
I
Yeah,
personally,
middle of August isn't even an issue because the
Yeah.
third rounds are in the beginning of
Yeah,
August, so.
that's the only.
Yeah.
We're good.
well, because when we talked earlier about what, like, we needed, and I felt like if we could get, like, just basic weeks on, it'd be a great starting point for all of us to have this discussion, as opposed to sometime between now and November. Like, that was blowing my mind. So I thought if she could put something together like this, and you did a great job on that, it'd give us a starting point, and then we could, obviously, if 1 week was horrible for majority of the board, then we adjust it if we need to. And then my other question is, so if we had an issue, we had a hiccup, things took longer, Shelley, what is the time frame that if we needed to squeeze another meeting in, that it needs to be posted? What's the,
The legal advertisements take 5 days to go in, 5 business days. So I would need to have, and then 5 days out, get it on.
okay,
Okay, great.
just so that we have an idea, because if we had 2 other candidates, like something just changed, or
Right, so
what wiggle room we had.
I think, possibly by the end of the night, like, if you guys are gonna mail out each one individually, I don't think it's a problem that we can advertise our whole list. We could put tentative and then just post on the superintendent search section of the website that this particular meeting is canceled, whatever. So that way we already have them all advertised and we're ready to go. And then, but the public can always just look on the website to know whether we're doing it or not. And I think the other thing to possibly mention, through all of these, it'll be a public board meeting that we're gonna advertise, because you're doing this as a whole board of 12, where a lot of times boards do this just as a committee, and then you don't have to advertise the meeting. But the agendas there'll be a public participation because there's required, but the whole entire meeting will be executive. So they'll be kind of set up and more informal. We're not going to live stream, because we're not gonna have all that set up, because it'll just be the board coming in and interviewing the candidates in executive.
Right.
And we'll put a little asterisk on the website that explains that too. But just so that the
Yeah.
public has an understanding that
Yes,
there's
yeah.
no sense.
There's no sense coming
Waiting
out on a
around.
Saturday, yeah.
And Kathleen, could you explain why interviews are done in exec?
Oh, absolutely. Well, New Jersey is one of the states where that's, this is confidential information, right? So the board is elected to do this job, and the board is the one that makes the decision. So that really lends itself very nicely to the confidentiality that candidates expect. And you probably may remember, like years ago, it was a thing to like have, and I'm talking years ago, I started working for NJSBA in 2016, and we didn't do it at this time, where you'd have committee member, someone from the community or an administrator or this or that come in and be part of the interview process. That is not the industry standard at all now, and that does cause concern for the candidates. And oftentimes they'll ask me just to make sure, because only one person can get the job, and most of the people in the pool do not tell their board or their employer that they are looking elsewhere, so that's the reason for that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else have any questions about the process, or?
The advertisement, is it typically that 4 weeks? Because there's something in my brain that was saying that we discussed 2 versus 4 versus You know, if they're gonna apply, they're gonna apply. They're ready and waiting to apply now. People know it's available.
I'm
So the
so
shorter
glad you brought this
window
up because
was not a bad thing because it's, get them in, get them.
I disagree with the sentiment that if they're going to apply, they're going to apply.
Okay.
And I say that because a lot of times I'll call candidates, I say, guess what's open? And they don't know, right? Or someone who doesn't work in this area, but who lives within a reasonable commute, who wants to do something like that, who doesn't know, right? So that helps my recruiting. And it's true that a lot of times people are aware of what's going on, especially those who are local. But another thing is, I ask for a pretty robust application package. I'll ask for a cover letter and a resume, and I have them fill out an application, which is a real pain in the tail, but it's got all your legal questions on it and protects the board. And I also ask for their 2 most recent performance evaluations. And that takes some time to get together, and it's the end of school. So it's already a pretty active time in the life of the people who are going to be applying for this. The standard when I worked at NJSBA doing these things, and I still abide by it for myself, is 5 weeks. I think that's a pretty good one. There have been cases where we have a smaller window, but the one that I'm thinking of, like there was a big lead up to that. The superintendent had announced that they were going to resign at like the beginning of the academic year, and everybody was kind of fluttering around like fireflies around a campfire trying to and that wasn't an issue. But most of the time, you know, the extra time and the advertisement does a good job. And I want to also make it plain to the board, which I think has already been made plain, that if we go through the candidates and you interview them and they're kind of lackluster, or even at the second round, you're just like, I don't know what happened, but they're not fits. Then we go back and get somebody. But that is probably not going to happen. And the reason why I'm confident to say that that's not going to happen is because we will have cast a wide net, and you'll have a fair amount of applicants to choose from. And if we shortchange the advertising time, you're just not like, I just don't believe in the philosophy like, and I'm not saying that this is the philosophy of it, let's just see who applies. If it's not good, then we'll just advertise again. That's not a good look for the board, right? To advertise quickly, because like, what, they can't get anybody? Well, maybe not, right? Maybe I should. And it's also just a lot of energy. Like, you want to do 2 pool deliveries? You know, do you want to do 2 rounds of, no, you know? So I think that front-loading the time on the advertisement will pay off in the end. Thanks for the question.
But I do agree, one of the people that we interviewed to do it said that, like, because I think other of us had that
I had that
too.
in my head too.
That one of the vendors that we interviewed said,
Somewhere.
I'm
Somebody said 2
completely,
weeks.
yeah.
I thought so
There's
too.
a lot of us were like, wait, yeah, right? Yeah, so I'm glad you asked.
Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel pretty strongly about it. I mean, I work for you, so you guys tell me. If you say, nope, we're going to do 2 weeks, I'll work with it. But I just think it's better to do it. All right. Okay.
Any other questions?
All right, so if the dates on this slide work, what I'll do is I'll take my electronic version of that thing that I just handed to you. You don't even have to copy them down off of this, and you'll have it for your records, and Shelley, you'll know what dates to advertise. All right? That was beautiful. Thank you. Okay, great. Sure. Absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I wrote it down.
I can just
No,
I can
I
just
just-
Google share this with all of you. Or Shelley, you can just kind of, you have it already. You can
Yeah.
pass it along.
And I can share
Yeah.
this out
Yeah,
also.
Awesome, thank you.
done. All right, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
You get it?
We're not done.
Well,
Don't go anywhere. Don't get
Step
up. Don't
one,
move.
step one.
Yay, that's an important step.
Don't leave, Bob. We're not done.
Nope. All right, I'd also like, speaking of the advertisement, we are going to talk about the advertising, right? So I think it's now a good time.
Yeah,
to
we
do
can,
that? All right.
we're
And then
gonna,
you're gonna go into executive.
yep, we'll start.
Okay, all right, pass these puppies along. Show my hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'll give you some for that side.
Much?
There we go.
So what I have here that the board is going to be examining and working off of is what I call the advertisement template. And in a folder that I distributed when we were first talking about this process, I had sample advertisements that I put together. I could even bring some up on the screen, I'm sure, if we needed to see them. But I think you guys got a good vibe for what the advertisements should look like. And I write the verbiage and make sure that the board likes it. But what I need to know is what you guys are looking for initially, right? I can't write it myself. I could try, but I don't think that would be a good, I think that would be shortchanging the board, so I don't want to do it. So the first thing is, you'll note, number one, okay, this is a superintendent search, looks good. And then describing the district. You probably know from the ads that I write that I do give a little feel for what the community is going to be like so that people can match themselves, Sometimes I frankly sound like a real estate agent in those parts of the ad, but it's all good. I'm trying to get, people who would be good fits to consider the district and people who are excellent leaders. So, some of the qualities that describe Belvidere and the Belvidere School District. So talk to me about those things. What are the ideas we have there?
So there's going to be a quiz.
There's no wrong answers, but yes.
The
Yes,
word tradition comes
Yes,
to my
ma'am.
mind.
Tradition, I like
Yes.
that.
I agree.
When I think of Belvidere School District, and the kids, I think of a heart. A lot of heart here.
Beautiful.
Community.
Community?
It's a smaller, smaller,
community.
close-knit
Yeah,
community.
Yeah, close-knit community.
Beautiful. Thank you. I must say, going on your website and looking at how you have your mission statement lined up is a beautiful thing. You guys did a great job on that. And you read your mission statement. So
So you
that's
have
good stuff.
a vibrant program. I know we're very strong agriculture, so I don't know if there's a way to pull that in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, you have FFA here, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say
Yeah.
that we're a town, but we're in the country.
Yeah.
It's kind of how that describes Belvedere. We're in a town, but you're in the midst of the cows as well. And the tractors and all that.
stinky?
We were last night when I
We're
left.
well-rounded. I wouldn't sell
Well-rounded.
us short. We're
No, but
well-rounded.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We have cable and indoor plumbing.
Morris.
Okay,
But we've been
I'm going to leave that out, though.
nationally.
If they ask me, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
That's
How-
good to know, but yeah.
One thing that always strikes me, and we've talked about it multiple times at board letters or board meetings, we've even gotten letters about our board, is how active our kids are in the community. Our
Very.
kids
That's
go
a
out
beautiful-
and are helpful, and so I don't know what would best sum that up, but our kids are
that's
productive
good.
people in our
The
community.
kids are involved in the community affairs, like they're the Lions Club. There's a
Yeah.
junior Lions Club.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Not that you would put it in the advertisement, but for context, there's a requirement. The kids have to complete
Yes.
20 hours of community service. And that sets
For
us
graduation.
apart. So we're instilling a value of community
There
as
you
well.
I don't mind putting that in the ad because
I'm
I
just
think
giving
that's a
context
beautiful
for you
thing,
to work
right?
with.
I think that's lovely. That's pretty distinguishing.
Yeah. We promote community service, maybe, to our students, and they do it. They
And they go above and beyond.
yes. People say so many great things about our students in the community.
Especially for the small number of students there are.
Okay, beautiful. All that stuff is great. Is there anything that jumps out at you that we didn't talk about? I'll read it to you. Well, a lot of heart, small, close-knit community, strong agriculture education with future farmers, rural in the country, well-rounded. Kids are active in the community, productive, helpful. You instill community service, and your kids go above and beyond.
I think maybe sell it even a little bit more in the sense of agriculturally FFA has been recognized at a level
Yes.
and a national
Oh.
level.
State and national, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
So I think that's something definitely to brag about.
beautiful.
Again, I don't know how you would write it in an ad, but, our bowling team on its first full year as state champions, and that was student-driven
Yeah.
request,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Not that I want to
No.
highlight any specific sport, but the fact that they stepped out and said, "We want this,"
Yeah.
they got the support and they executed.
So one of the things that I think is really important about our school district and the kids here is you can be on the state bowling team and the national FFA award winner and the field hockey team, right? You're not just an athlete or
Or a
a
top 10.
farmer.
It's that
Yeah.
or a top
well-rounded
10.
piece, right? It's that,
It's okay to be all of
Yeah.
them.
You're
not-
well-rounded.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
vibrant growing programs.
Yeah.
Like something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah, like
But that shows a lot of leadership innate in our kids. And you're right, like we've got an FFA student who's a Leo, an officer, and she's a dancer and a strong academic student. Like that is pretty diverse.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. That
And
is-
just a good kid.
Maybe you.
So they can explore their diverse interests, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
excellent.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Anything else that jumps out at you? All right. Good stuff. So the next is kind of like the black and white district facts, your configurations. I have a number of buildings. I know you have 2 schools. Is that accurate? Number of buildings? Okay.
One, really.
Oh, okay, all
Sorta,
right.
kinda,
Well, you
yeah.
know what? I'm going to put 2 schools because it is 2 distinct schools, right? So,
There used to be 2, and then they.
Connected.
well, you know what? you know, easy
you
for
have
me to
these
say,
two,
I don't have
BES
to
and you
maintain
have
it.
BHS.
And the high
But,
school.
yeah,
It's
yes. And it is a
and two
beautiful,
buildings,
I
but there's a
love your
breezeway.
building,
Two
like
schools,
driving
but
up
it's
to it,
technically
like.
one building.
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
it's
One
connected
building.
by the cafeteria
Connected by
back,
the
yeah. One facility, 2 schools.
Well, we won't get into like the,
Yeah.
wings and all that, 2
show you
When we
schools,
do
I think. is-
reports, it's
Yeah,
Okay.
building.
one building.
Okay.
One building, 2 schools.
2 school, well, I could
You
say
can
2
walk from
schools
one
and
end
1
to the
building.
other
Yeah.
and never go outside.
2 schools and 1 building, how's about that? Okay. All right. And it's just such a beautiful structure. It's really like very historic. I love it architecturally. Okay. So enrollment, I don't know if you know that, Shelley,
I'll
off the
give
top
you
of your head,
3,
but you'll.
4, and 5.
Okay, you can get that to me. And then like other like interesting little facts about the different districts. So clearly, having a 12-member Board of Education is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Hope, White, I'm not even saying it, I'm not saying anything, that they wouldn't find out, but it's just, that you guys are able to work together as a 12-member board is pretty cool. Hope, White, and Harmony also, that dynamic. Those are noteworthy. Anything else that's kind of, I don't think so, but am I missing something?
The only other thing that is hanging out there is the regionalization study was just completed.
Yeah.
And we're putting it off for like a year or 2 or whenever the state gets their act together, but that could
But there's an
possibly be some.
interest.
Right, there's definitely an interest, and that could come to fruition at some point during this person's tenure.
Okay.
Good point.
Yeah. Any of the options.
Right, and you wouldn't even want to name them, because there's like 18.
Okay, and that'll be a big point during interviews, I'm sure, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Search progresses. Okay.
Also, it might be a good selling point, because you could be a superintendent of a regional district as opposed to,
We need somebody really good,
yes.
really, not just good, we need somebody great. All right. So that being said, there's a lot of people who can do the job. They've been superintendents elsewhere, but there's different skill sets, right? And there's a ton that are really important for every superintendent to have. But what do you want to focus in on? What sorts of areas of expertise are we looking at? Now, sometimes I hear strong in curriculum. When I'm doing a regional high school, I'll hear strong in high school programming. It might be, strong, financial acumen. It could be organizational skills, community engagement. What jumps out at you guys as we start to talk about this?
Special education skills.
Okay.
I think community, since that's such a core value,
Mm-hmm.
and accountability.
Yeah,
Proven ability to hold
Okay.
accountable.
Yeah,
people accountable in the
Accountability.
district.
That
Yeah,
is
I'm not really
huge.
sure how you want to say that.
Oh,
Would it
yeah, I'll
be-
wordsmith it.
Yeah.
Proactive instead of reactive.
yes.
Beautiful.
I think, long-term and short-term strategic planning.
Okay.
Communication.
Mm-hmm.
I think understanding also how to evaluate the work that you do, like outcome monitoring, typical like PDCA, like plan, do, check, act. How SMART goals. Like I don't know if that's PI quality, but that's really
Well, I'm thinking we can kind of combine that statement with the long and short-term planning, like someone who has an eye on, who knows how to set goals, but also knows how to execute them,
and
right?
evaluate. Yeah.
So execute and evaluate goals,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe some creative problem solving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's
Okay. I've got a big list already, so I might just cut you off here. But what I have here, special education, community, accountability, meaning the proven ability to hold people accountable, proactive, not reactive, long and short-term planning, expert at communication, executing and evaluating goals, creative problem solving. So I'll work those kind of in.
I hate to throw one more in, but I feel like it's really important is curriculum, academic. I just feel like our test scores and I think that's somewhere where we have
Sure. And I've got that on the list, and that I think is going to come up in my next couple of questions,
Okay.
right? So so those are qualities, right, and skill sets, but I also want to talk about qualifications. So the only required qualification is that they have the right cert, right? That's kind of it. But is there something that this board wants to make sure that the candidates have? In certain districts, they say, superintendent experience or assistant superintendent experience required, a doctorate required. In the regional high schools, a lot of times, high school experience required. So now, and when we say required, it does narrow the pool. It does narrow the pool. So I'm thinking about somebody who is a director of curriculum that I work with, right, that I've worked with before, and they do all of the work of an assistant superintendent, but they don't have that title. So if we said, assistant superintendent or superintendent experience required, then that person really couldn't be considered for this.
Could we just use preferred?
Absolutely. Yes, we can. That's why that's the next part on that sheet. So typically, the
mind.
required stuff is a little thin, right? In the searches that I've been doing, the cert is a given, but sometimes required teaching experience shows up here. Because you do not need to have teaching experience to get the cert. Most people do, but there are a number of applicants that I've worked with who do not have teaching experience. It's up to the board on whether or not that's important enough to make it a requirement or not.
I would prefer it. I don't know what other people feel like. I feel
I
like
think it's
it's more relatable because how do you help those in that position if you haven't experienced it? That's my opinion.
Is it
But I'm-
required or is it preferred?
Preferred.
I would
Like
be,
preferred.
I would
No,
agree with
I'm saying
preferred.
all preferred, yeah.
Yeah, I
'cause
agree with
I don't,
preferred.
nobody wanted to add to the required, right?
Right,
No.
preferred is good for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, wait.
Instead of
Oh, never
teaching,
mind.
could we say educational experience?
Oh,
Because
that'd be
you're
good,
getting
yeah.
rid of counselors, people that come up that don't have, they may have years
I-
of education.
I don't
experience.
know. That's a little vague, right? So I can tell you this, the superintendent from Rumson Fairhaven has some classroom teaching experience, like as a, they went in as a substitute or covering or this or that, but that person has a counseling background. But they rose to the level of deputy superintendent. And I also, as part of their application process, we asked for them to supply us redacted copies of their evaluations of educators, and clearly this person knew what they were doing, right? So I don't know if that person would fit the definition of an educational background, because clearly we're not going to have like a banker in here, They
Right,
would, you
but
know
if
what I
you
mean?
say-
So
If you
what?
say teacher, you're eliminating
Yeah.
that person because they didn't have classroom teaching.
Yes. If you make it too tight and that's a requirement,
Right.
that would have eliminated.
And you're doing it as preferred, so it's
Yeah.
still
Okay.
not.
Or strongly preferred. I
yeah.
mean, strong.
Yeah.
I like strongly preferred because it reflects what you just said for your staff. Like, we want somebody who can relate to you, right?
Yeah.
We want somebody who knows what you've gone through. You know.
Want special education certification strongly preferred? I know we talked about that.
Depends. They gotta check another box, right? We don't know what that other box is gonna be, and what qualifications they come with. That would be a nice box to check, but if they didn't check it, I wouldn't.
But that's why it makes it preferred.
I would just make it.
Yeah.
That's just
Okay.
what I'm.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking teaching is going in strongly preferred, or am I just projecting there? Is strongly preferred good for teaching?
I'm
I-
okay with just prefer.
Just
Yeah.
preferred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Is there anything strongly preferred? Because I'm moving through this methodically. Anything strongly
I don't think
preferred?
it's
So I would like that they have done this job before.
Yeah, I would strongly
Okay.
prefer, in my opinion, right? I would
Previous
strongly
experience.
prefer that they
Yes.
had some kind of a
Administrator?
leadership role.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be a
Administrative.
supervisor.
Can
yeah.
we back up to number one?
What was number one?
Sure.
we're
Required.
Position info.
No, we can't, be quiet.
Yeah, but we
Well,
had
I
talked
just think
before, we
that
had 7 different options.
Everything we,
Right now, we're talking
I'm
superintendent.
pretty sure that we're hiring a superintendent slash something. Is that,
We think, yeah, that's,
don't know.
they gotta check another box.
well, we don't have a budget to hire a superintendent 100% time. So that's why I just wonder that, shouldn't our ad be that we're hiring a superintendent slash
But what are you gonna say slash? You don't know what
Principal.
slash is. We don't know what's
principal of
principal.
something?
We don't know what's principal.
Or dean of.
Right.
Budget application, I would. Having to talk numbers,
Right, I don't
Yeah.
mean it as a
Yeah,
numbers
no,
thing. I just
no.
mean that's, I mean, maybe
Well,
I'm
And
So-
that's a
so-
valid point.
but I
so-
just felt like that was our,
yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing.
No. No, so in your,
right,
in,
because I don't know that this is your standard superintendent search, because this is a 3 administrator building.
but that's
So-
part of it, right? From what my understanding is, when we first had some of these conversations, was that if you do that, it limits your search pool, whereas if you do like strongly, or, you're widening what your other option could be, not holding you to.
Right. So if you have somebody who would really fulfill role, not only superintendent, but role A, right? You have the flexibility. So you can say, you know what, we were considering role B, but this person is role A, we can fill role B in another way. So that's a board decision and we can do that. But Shelley makes a really important point that I did want to talk to you guys about. This is going to be a dual role. We just don't know what the dual role is.
Correct.
So I would like to, for full disclosure for these folks, right, who are going to be applying for it, I think a good place to put it would be in the ad, but even if it's not in the advertisement, I need to talk to them about it when they're applying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I need
yeah.
to,
Absolutely.
I need to say,
Right,
look,
'cause
are
you
you
don't want
good
somebody
with
to go
this?
through all
Yeah.
this effort thinking they're gonna come get a principal that said, I don't wanna be a principal anymore, I wanna be a superintendent now. And then they
Now
do
he's
all
a
this
principal
effort and they
superintendent.
apply here
Yeah.
and, well, you're still gonna be a principal of something.
Yeah.
It's
the
just, we don't know why.
qualifications.
Or someone coming from, I mean, I don't even know if this would work out, but someone coming from a big district where there's like 90 million, they'll be like, what? I thought I was applying for superintendent. No, you do people figure that out who wind up in this pool.
Yeah.
But,
If they
but
do any of
we
their
got to be
research,
fair, yeah.
but-
If we do that and say superintendent slash whatever, it may change the qualifications.
Well, it would, that's why the qualifications are not, and that's a really good point. They're not binding, like, that's why the required stuff is thin here, we just have that one. And then I like to focus on different leadership qualities and things like that, but the skill sets, it's kind of, we'll see who you land on, what candidates shine that might be in role this or role that. You know what I mean? I'm not
I'm
saying that
thinking-
That's why
eloquently.
I
If
was
we-
thinking we shy away from the required.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking if we can continue the conversation around the qualifications that we're all kind of already have in mind, then that might help facilitate, you work backwards into, okay, these are the things we are looking for, because we know there are things that we need in our district.
Somewhere.
Okay, then that leads to filling in question one. If we get,
Yeah.
rather than forcing into a box, let's get everything on the table, and then that will lead us into
Yeah.
what that should be.
Agreed.
Good point.
Yeah.
Which then will hand in hand go with the budget, all at the same
Yeah,
time.
I just didn't want to see us.
No,
like,
absolutely.
No, we
Absolutely.
blindly saying, hey, we're hiring a
Yeah,
superintendent.
yeah.
No,
No,
and
no, 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 no.
it's also an important point for your community to know, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that you're stewards of the budget and you're being responsible here. So it's a really great point.
Yeah, let's finish this, and then I think that'll feed more naturally rather than in the inverse.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it is a dual role.
And we have to decide what that dual role is. I mean, so
At a
say,
certain-
okay, we hired you as a superintendent. Oh, and by the way,
Well, we're
Right.
hoping
No,
the
so-
person drives the role.
Yes.
Right.
Like,
Well-
Right.
maybe.
We need, as a facilitator, right, I will feel obligated, and I know you guys agree with me, obviously, is to say to the applicants, look, this is going to be a dual role. Where it lands is kind of up for grabs, and here's why, right?
Yeah.
And have that conversation with them and see if they're still interested. And then what you're going to consider will probably really drive a lot of conversations in certainly the second round, right? We'll set the table a little bit in the first round. I'm already thinking about questions that we could ask. And by the third round, you're going to need to know, in my humble
Oh,
opinion,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure,
of course.
because you're going to be negotiating a contract with this person, so,
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting, so.
Can I just, I want to even back up further, just really quick, while we're still in open session. On the calendar, the proposed calendar, I know that there's a session coming up with community students that we have written down. How do you, provide the board with that feedback?
Oh, it's a big report.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I will have sneak peek for everybody who's going to come. I'm going to have a presentation up, and then I have some blank slides with a series of questions. And as people answer that, I'm going to be typing it in. I'm going to make sure that what I'm typing reflects what the participant says, and I basically copy and paste it and put it all into a report.
Okay.
And then I also analyze what people are saying through the survey and this to come up with what the commonalities are, like what the different groups are saying that's in common or maybe outliers, but that keep showing up that the board really needs to consider. But you'll have all of that data.
Okay.
No, thanks for the question.
So would that be best, like, to meet and review that
Oh, yeah.
prior, so, because your pool delivery's July 16th, so are we looking at putting in a meeting to meet with you after you get all the data?
Yes. So
Okay.
I will have, depending on when the survey closes, I'll have plenty of time, I think, to put that report together.
Okay.
So you will have it in advance. And the way it normally works is the first anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour of the pool delivery, we talk about that report.
Okay.
So
so
all at the
it's
same
not a
time,
separate
not a
meeting.
separate meeting?
We don't need a separate
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
You could even do it at a regular board
Like the
meeting if you
June
wanted
11th?
to. Yeah.
Might be too soon.
Shit,
That's
only a
definitely
week.
too
That's
soon.
only a week.
That's definitely
Yeah,
too soon.
No.
Okay.
That's
If
what
I
I'm
can
asking.
do it, great.
Easy with
Yeah,
copy
yeah,
and paste.
I know, but the survey, like I do, percentages, you'll see it, it's a wonderful chart.
Okay.
And then what I also do is I write a profile, and this is probably what takes me the most amount of time. Like, I really think about what's been showing up, what I know about your district, right? What you guys have told me, what people have told me live, what shows up in those surveys, and I write a summary, like a character profile of what I think you should be looking for based on, the results, right? It's not just coming out of my head, it's coming out of these results. And that's something that we also talk about, and I do that in executive session as part of the pool delivery. Did I miss anything? Is there something here that's just outright wrong? Or does this work for everybody? Is this helpful? So when we're going through the search, we can look back at that report and keep in mind all of the outcomes of the report and match them up to your candidate.
And we think that 15 minutes before we start interviewing people is enough?
That's what I'm wondering, because we have the June 11th
No,
meeting
that's
and
not
then
it.
nothing
That's just when
again.
you're reviewing resumes.
That's a
Yeah.
pool
No.
delivery.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Before, all right.
You'll
sorry.
have a copy of it before the
Data
yeah.
input information.
I have been here every day this week.
You guys are
It's been a
champs,
long week.
believe me. So I'm going to get you an electronic copy before this thing, right?
Okay,
So
right, I know the
you'll have
electronic
plenty of
copy,
time
I
to
just know-
look through it. And and I think 15 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. I don't know, however long
I
it takes.
just-
I heard what you
But
You
yeah,
heard where I
yeah.
was, right? All right. I
She
mean,
was thinking it was Saturday on interview day.
yeah,
Oh
that's
my
what I was
God,
thinking.
no,
And
no,
I was
that
like,
would be
no,
terrible.
I need
Yeah,
more
I'm sorry, I
time
didn't
than
catch
that.
that. Yeah, I didn't catch that.
All
but
right,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think that there's going to be anything in the report that'll surprise you. You're
I
from
don't
this
think so
community,
either. I
you know the
just-
deal, but it's very interesting to see what the percentages are, right? And it's very interesting to hear what people are actually saying in response to these questions. All right. So where were we? Okay, we're on strongly preferred qualifications.
Where we
So,
want everything under.
So I know we said like superintendent or assistant superintendent would be especially attractive, right? Is
Yes.
that,
Well,
okay.
I thought
Or
we were looking
administrative.
for administrative.
I said some,
Well, they have to have some kind of administration.
right, whether it's
Like,
a
you're not- yeah,
supervisor or
yeah.
director,
Yeah,
but they need to have direct reports. They need to have a proven leadership of their direct reports.
okay.
So we
Yeah.
can see if we hold anybody accountable.
So like
like
what we
your
call
verbiage.
central office experience, right?
Yes.
But you want somebody with direct reports. That is kind of different, like not all supervisors have direct reports, they're supervisors.
Then that doesn't really
Yeah,
help us then.
yeah.
Well,
So, but that I can get into when I'm diving into their, into their individual things. Like, those are the ones that'll be most attractive, but just to avoid a bunch of word soup
Right.
and all that, I think I could put assistant superintendent, assistant superintendent, or director.
Principal.
Yeah.
I
or
was just
principal.
gonna ask though, like if, like when I think about things that we're required to submit and what our current superintendent signs off on and CUSAC and all that stuff, if we don't have a superintendent, who's gonna help to onboard that person if they don't have superintendent experience to know to do all those things?
That's part of the superintendent association and the county roundtables every month.
So there'll be
They'll have lists of
support to
things.
orient to a
They-
superintendent.
They have a
role.
network they can plug
guidance.
into.
And they have a
District.
mentor as well. They'll have their own mentor that
Okay.
the Association for School
And a
Administrators
plethora of
assigns to them.
emails.
Nice.
Um,
Come.
And I got to tell you, like Warren County, the superintendents are so supportive of one another. It is a beautiful thing. It doesn't happen in every county. Some counties are very, they're kind of competitive among each other, or they're, not as unified. This county is
I
outstanding.
mean, I would prefer a previous superintendent.
I would
Just
too.
thinking budget-wise, I just want
I
to make
prefer
sure.
one, but I don't want to limit,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If you got somebody from a huge school district who was director of something, who had 30 direct reports, that's kind of like a super, that's what I was
Yeah.
just trying not
Yeah.
to rule out those people.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that huge district thing, right? Someone from a huge district is going to have, and I don't, culture shock coming into a
Yeah.
district with three
Yeah.
Well, unless they
administrators.
live here.
Someone from Patterson, I'm sorry to just throw that out there, I'm sure there is somebody from Patterson who gets
Different
it.
world.
But wow, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
That happens in the
they-
business world all the time. You
Yeah.
go from AT&T to the garage shop down the street. Different world, but
I
people
know.
do it.
I find in my experience, not that, but that going from a smaller district is way easier to go from smaller to bigger than the reverse.
I would
But
think
I don't know. I'm not saying count out a big district person. The perfect person may very well be from a big district, but they got to understand that they are going to be
They
wearing
need to
9 million
understand-
hats.
Million hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
they need to understand the difference in the resources, right? Phillipsburg High School has a vice principal for every grade level. That is not happening here. So they need to understand they're not going to have that same kind of resource
Support.
structure.
Which district is this that has?
Phillipsburg.
Oh, yeah.
Which
that's-
is,
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's right here. It's not as, it's much closer than Patterson, but
Right
it,
down the road.
Oh, I
it's-
know,
they're
I know.
so
But
spread
like
out.
Patterson, they're a former Abbott, right? So,
Yes.
you know, it's different. It's different. It's different, but they have to. What's nice about Peaburg, though, is like they still are in Warren County, so they get the Warren County
They do,
dynamic,
yeah.
you know, which
and,
is
and we
useful.
collaborate, right? Our swimmers swim there and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that they need to be able to understand how to leverage a network, right? And maybe that includes tapping into a white or superintendent, you know, or
Yeah.
because we're not big enough to have all of our own programs. They need to understand, hey, maybe I should reach out to, you know, North Warren to have them send their field hockey kids here.
In my mind.
And we'll
Well,
send
the
our swimming kids
relationships,
to
yeah.
Peaburg.
So a network and relationships is what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
you know, and I won't
'Cause
put
it's
that
both
in the,
not
yeah,
only
but that's good for me to know.
within the school, it's very important within our community because we all know each other, and within the local academic community. You know, because they need to manage the relationship with our sending districts outside, as well as our neighboring schools where we collaborate services.
Thank you. Yeah, that's,
Right? Because we have a good number of kids who go to Warren Tech, but then they come here for their athletics because they would have come to our high school. But currently, they're not choosing that. And then we need to figure out how to care for, because there are
Yeah.
kids in our community,
yeah.
even though they've chosen, they want to be welders, so they need to go to Tech, but they need to be on our field hockey field or.
That's
I'm
great.
trying-
No,
That's the only
thank you
sport
for
I can
that.
think of off the top of my head
Yes.
that they don't have.
Yeah. I
And that we
gotcha.
have, because we don't have lacrosse, which is a challenge.
I gotcha. Thank you for that. Okay. So as far as like strongly preferred, I mean, I can put, you know, I mean, we also mentioned principal, right? So superintendent, assistant superintendent, principal, or director supervisor experience. I mean, I may as well just put the whole thing. Does that work? I may as well. It's okay.
Run it through the garden.
Yeah, okay. Well, and that's going to cover a lot of people, but that's okay. I like a big pool.
I don't think we want to limit ourselves.
No,
They're looking
no.
for a person. Like, I just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
That will fit.
a fit,
yeah.
less than a resume.
Well, that's why I am so grateful that you've contracted with me and allow me to do those preliminary interviews first. Because like you are implying, I believe, is that there's so much more to a person than what's on paper.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
And how are you going to know that? So when I give you guys a short list, I will have talked to everybody on that short list and then some, and I'll be very confident that these are worth a
Yeah,
consideration.
They might be great on paper, but if, to your point, they're very much competitive, and it's about, you know, they wouldn't want to talk to another superintendent,
Yeah.
that's not going to be a fit.
No, it's not going to be a fit. And
They might have great
conversely,
credentials.
some resumes I look at and I go, "What is this? This resume stinks. Like this is not telling me anything about this person.
Yeah, and-
Let me talk to them." And they turn out to be, there's much more. So it works both
Yes,
ways.
absolutely.
Watch those conversations are so important. So
I've had some of the greatest hires who had resumes that HR didn't want to get past, and they wound up being great fits
wow.
because on paper they were taking whatever job they could to feed their family.
Oh wow. All right.
So they looked bad
I'm
on
telling you,
paper.
it's going to be a very interesting process. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think I'm going to just preferred qualifications. We were talking about some of the skill sets. So, I mean, I don't know if we need any preferred qualifications. I think I have a pretty big list here. And I also think just saying the wide net, the superintendent, principal, director, assistant superintendent, supervisor, I think we're in good shape there. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so timeline. What's our projected starting date? Should we say mid-October, mid-November? Does that work for
I would,
everybody?
I would.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We got to shoot for that.
Good.
What'd you
We
say?
put 10-1 or
I was,
10/1 would be the perfect start.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well,
I don't want to put October 1 in case somebody has a 90-day notice. I may be wrong about that, but
did you
But
say
you're not gonna put
desire
11, 15,
10/1, but
no, I'll say
flexible?
mid-October, target.
Just a
You know what,
general mid.
I could put timeline, target date, 10/1, I mean,
I mean,
but we're not gonna,
10/1
it's not
to
gonna, it's not
11/1.
gonna happen
We don't think it's
10/1.
gonna-
It's not gonna
10/15.
happen, there's no way.
Yeah.
So
So,
10/15, 11/1.
First quarter.
I'll put target.
No. Third quarter.
As soon
I
as
was
you get
hoping August
approved.
1st.
Now.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, who knows? Maybe it'll be somebody that's got a 30-day. You don't know.
Oh, you know, if,
Yeah, you never know.
oh,
be
someone
somebody
with a 30-day, I
Or
don't
got
know.
released.
Somebody, they might let them go.
But they might let him go, right? So for Demarest, that guy had a 180-day notice in his contract, but the board in where he was coming from said,
Go.
it's okay.
Get out.
Yeah.
Right, if somebody's gonna hire an interim anyway, they might say,
They
fine,
might
we're gonna
wanna
start
be
interim
done.
9/1 instead of 10/1.
Especially the beginning of a
Or
school
instead of
year.
11/1.
Yeah.
Especially
And the
beginning of
other
school
thing
year,
too is
maybe they
like if
wanna
you
start
have
fresh.
a principal who's being mentored by their superintendent who really wants to see their wings spread, you know.
Yeah,
So we'll
There you
do
go.
October 15th target. Does that work out?
Sure.
works for
Okay,
me.
beautiful. And I will have deadline date the 29th. And if it's okay with you, I'll do the resume, cover letter, certs, and I'll also get their last 2 performance evaluations. Is there anything else that you want me to ask for? Usually that's a pretty good application
When you
package.
mentioned that you asked them to provide references, what are they? Peer references, employer references, what?
That's a good question. So on the application that I have them fill out, I have 4 blank spots for whatever reference they want to put in. But when it gets to the point that we are going to run a reference check on a single person, I want to hear from, depending on, who we're speaking with, I want to hear from people who have worked for them. I want to hear people who they have worked under. I want to hear from different, depending on the candidate, like maybe the PTA president, right, depending on the district. If they're very strong on security and they keep telling us how, strong their relationship is with the local chief of police, we'll be talking to that person, So I kind of look for stakeholder groups that are important in this district and try to match up a reference from each of those groups that you'll be calling, whether they're supplied or unsupplied.
Okay, thank you.
All right? But we don't do the reference check until we get to one.
No, I just want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
understand,
Yeah. And I want your community to know that too, because they'll be wondering like what's going on,
Yeah.
but it's going to be really airtight until,
Of course.
all right?
I'd like to suggest a credit report.
Credit report. That would be unusual and different. I've never had that in a search before.
That's done in the business world.
Responsible.
You wouldn't want that at the outset of the application process, would you? Okay.
Business world, the credit report is typically done during
Yeah, we could,
reference check.
and we'll get guidance from your attorney on how to do that on your finalist or last couple of finalists. All right. And I'll put that in my little box on the application. Thank you. All right. I think we're in good shape. That's, those are the big conversations that I wanted to have with you on this. I know you have public comment to get to and everything, but I think we've done. Is there anything else in the conversations that we've had that we haven't expressed that you want to talk about? All right, thank you. All right. Very well. But next steps, I'll draft up an advertisement, send it to you, clean it up with me, send it to the board. If there's anything wacky, or anything, adjustments that you want to make, let me know and I'll do it. But other than that, then I'll work with you, Shelley, to post it on the New Jersey School Board's website, and I'll put it on my website, ASA, as well. We'll start getting the word out, all right?
Okay.
All right.
And you're going to stay for exec so
I
we
will
can finish
definitely
up
stay for
the
exec, but I think I should.
last
sit
personnel.
over here.
Yeah, that's fine. Wherever you're comfortable.
I'll sit over here until you need me again.
Okay. We are on to public participation, limited to 5 minutes and 30 minutes total. Any public participation for this evening? Come on down. I can't hear. She needed a second, I think.
Hi, I'm Katie Galeen. I'm a parent, I'm a former board member. I'm here today to ask the board not to renew the business administrator's contract. We cannot afford it. The renewal means we, the taxpayers, will pay over $200,000 salary for 0 results. The school is not succeeding in any form. Low academic achievement and horrible administration is the regular at this school. If you choose to renew this contract, it's clear how little you care about our community. And I also would like to know, why did the minutes of the meetings online, they're not being posted anymore. They stopped being posted on March 19th, and I'm wondering why. Usually it's supposed to be within a timely manner. It's not. So maybe if she could do that too, that'd be great. Have a nice day.
Hi, Vicky Davenport. All right, so you guys hired a bunch of aides, I want to say 3 meetings ago. I want to know where they are. Because my son's class is supposed to have 5 aides along with the head teacher. We have 1 aide that is full-time. I believe he is a substitute. We have 2 aides that only make 1 person, even though their times overlap. I just want to know where the people are, because it's not safe. The other problem I've been having is that we've been having a lot of behavior complaints from our kids, and they're not allowed to go into their normal classes. That is a needed thing, because they need to learn how to behave like a normal child. They need to see how it works. And I do know that there's a huge problem with bullying the kids who are special needs, which leads to the next one of, do we still do anti-bullying seminars? They did them when we were kids. Can we start them younger, like 2nd, 3rd grade? Only because the kids need to learn younger that we can't bully the special needs kids. The special needs kids don't understand. They understand I'm stressed out and I'm gonna explode. They do not understand I need to stop and think and not hit this kid. And unfortunately, that's what happens. Thank you.
Any other public participation this evening? No? Okay, can I have a motion to go into executive session for personnel?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay. We'll be going into executive session for personnel. Any discussion held by the board which not need remain okay, let me start again. Yeah. Any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session in maybe a half hour. No action will be taken tonight when we come back. Okay, we're good.